If you have ever been in a creative rut, I have tips to share today to help you get out of that creative rut. And the irony was not lost on me. This is a collaboration with the creative design team, and our collaboration topic is how to get out of a creative rut. And I was definitely in a creative rut, lying around on the couch, knowing I had to get this video film, thinking I just do not feel like scrapbooking. And I had to just pause and laugh at, like I said, the irony behind this situation. Sometimes a creative rut can just be short lived. Sometimes we can slip into a creative rut that goes on for months and months and months. So tune in all week long as we share ideas on how to deal with that. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, hopefully these tips will help you kind of get the creativity going again. So I have several photos here of a trip hiking through Yosemite National Park. This was my husband and I's first big backpacking trip. And this is photos from day one. So we were back there for like, I think 3 days. And I kind of broke the photos down by, our hike in on the first day. So I've got some cool, shots of the flowers and this mushroom. Isn't that so cool? I just love mushrooms. So I was happy to find this little interesting specimen. So this is just our journey in on the first day. And I've got scenery shots mixed with people shots. So my first tip for getting out of a creative rut is to scrapbook. Wow, scrapbook something you are genuinely excited to scrapbook. These pictures are beautiful. I'm excited to tell this story and document this memory. And I'm also very excited to work with this paper collection. This is a sneak peek coming up in the May catalog, and this is just so my colors, and it's called Moonlit Flora, and this inspires me. So playing with new toys where can be scrapbooks can be a little bit like toddlers. We want to play with what's shiny and new, but if that helps you get out of a creative rut and into your craft room, then awesome, go for it, right? Since this is my first time creating with this paper pack, I'll just give you a quick look at the papers. It's Moonlit Flora because we have this whole nighttime garden with the little moths here. And this is the opposite side of that one. And then we have this pattern here, both sides of that one. And then this one, love the secret sea. The ferns are just gorgeous. I like ferns just as much as I like mushrooms. There's a stamp and die set that I will be using to embellish this collection with as well. So these are really pretty too. This is one of those paper packs where you might find yourself like, oh, I'm afraid to cut into it, but we're going to do it. We're just going to do it. On those occasions when I find myself suffering from the creative blah, I reach for a sketchbook. Now, yes, this is a shameless plug for our creative design team sketchbooks, but I truly use these and love them and find them to be very helpful. I found this sketch. This is from our Volume 5 sketchbook, and it's a great sketch that allows lots of photo opportunities with both landscape and portrait and lots of paper layers, which is going to help me bring in a lot of the different papers from that beautiful Moonlit Flora pack. So this is, again, Volume 5. And I am going to use this to help me jump in because we don't have any creativity, right? We just find ourselves staring and procrastinating. So this, just like I said, helps me to take the guesswork out of it. So now we just need to pick our papers here. And I have already done a little bit of, looking at this, and I do in my photos. Now we do have both the berry tones as well as the gold tones. But if you look at my pictures, you predominantly see these gold flowers, which I think ties in very nicely with this. So my friend's shirt is like a deep berry color. It's a little bit more purpley, but kind of the same family. And then my backpack is actually the color of that paper, just a little bit deeper. So we could go either way, but I think I want to bring in the gold patterns here. So let's go ahead, and I'm pretty sure I want this one. It does bring in a little bit of the berry color. So we're just gonna place these down, and I know I want the gold, so let's bring that in. Again, I've got lots of paper layers with this sketch. So what I'm going to do is just kind of dry fit them quickly and not overthink it, because oftentimes it's your first guess at, or your first hunch at what you should have used that you should go back to. So let's see, what's on the opposite side of that one? Oh, this is the opposite side of the one I'm using. So we're going to set that one aside. And I already have one large pattern on there, so I'm probably going to want to stick with the smaller pattern. So I need something going across, and then we'll need the gold on the opposite side. Where is the other gold paper? Ah, there it is. So we'll bring this one over here, and then let's kind of tuck it under. And then we'll need something going across the bottom, and then we need a piece here. Now this one's going behind the photos, so I want it kind of, not a busy pattern. We want pattern, but neutral. You could also go with cardstock. But basically we've got that option. So this is like a brighter green. And then I have another green in here. Where is it? That's the same one there. So we've got this one, but I don't like that one. I want to go with more color. So this has a lot of white to the background. So I prefer this one over this one. And then, okay, so this is our last pattern here. It's got that on the opposite side. So you can see there are two different greens, but they're both in our background paper. So we have this one with the brighter greens and this one bringing out the tones of the darker green. Now, when I look at this, they're both smaller patterns, but this pattern to my eye looks very similar to the size and scale and movement of this pattern, as to where this one has a different feel. It's a little bit bigger of a leaf, and it's not, it's got more of an abstract design. And do you see what I mean by these kind of are in the same type of pattern, even though that's a leaf and these are dots? So I think this one's going to look better, just give us a little bit more variety with our patterns. And then if we bring our photos in, I printed them out to follow the sketch, and we can just roughly lay these down here and not overthink it. That's what I tell myself all the time. Don't overthink, just do. I think we spend too much time thinking and not enough time doing, right? So you know what? We've got the flowers here. Let's go ahead and bring this flower over here. And I think that looks pretty good. So now we need a piece for the bottom. And I can already tell you, I want to bring in that beautiful Secret C paper. And we might bring in cardstock, but let's just kind of check this out. Okay, so same thing. This is similar to that pattern. It's different, but it has a similar look and size. And we have a lot of patterns going on. So I think just solid cardstock, since you're not really going to see a lot of that anyway. I'm going to go with solid Secret C. I went ahead and cut this down. And yes, I did look at my papers ahead of time, so there was some decision making that took place off camera. Like I knew I wanted to go with the gold, but I'm sharing some of that thought process with you. But again, I'm just trying to tell myself, just jump in and do it. So I am liking this. I think that this is going to look very nice. This pattern looks good behind the photos. I love how the gold complements the colors here. And just for fun, if you want to see how the burgundy color looks, not burgundy, berry, that's the word I'm looking for. It's wild berry. We can just slip this one in here. And I only have the one because I'm already using the other side of the pattern paper. So it's not bad, and I think that it would be pretty, but I like the gold better. So I'm going to go with that one. And now I can go ahead and just start making the paper cuts following the sketch. I followed the measurements exactly and cut my pieces for each side of the layout. I am going to ink those up with some Secret C ink, but I wanted to talk to you about my next tip. Sometimes all I need to do is get in there and start creating some fun little pretties from the Stampin' die set. So that's what I've done here. This is the coordinating Fern and Flora Stampin' die set. The dies are amazing. I love it. They've got outline dies to cut out the stamps, and then they have these beautiful standalone dies for layering, and they're just so pretty. So you might not be a card maker, but I do enjoy making cards, and I consider it like a low risk way to play with the product and just kind of get that creativity going, right? You can play around with the color combinations and the different bits and pieces. And this is just a fun way for me to start getting into my craft room and not worrying about a layout that's a much bigger canvas and something that's going in my albums that I'm going to look at for years and years to come and want to be happy with. This is just a nice way to play around with it, send a little happy mail, and get to know the product. So here I've got a lot of stamped pieces, a few die cuts. Again, they're just so pretty. Isn't that pretty? Different little fern bits and some different leaves. And then the rest of these I have just stamped and colored in with coordinating colors. So they tell you the colors in the paper pack, and I just stuck with that and colored up these beautiful bits to create with. So that can be a way to get into your craft room and just start making something pretty that you can use on a layout or a card. And that often can be all it takes to get that going, right? That creativity going. I find that just starting is very, very helpful. Sometimes you just need to say, okay, I am going to sit down and I'm going to craft for 10 minutes. And I will actually set a timer for 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden you find you don't want to stop, right? And somebody's asking, what's for dinner? And you're like, I'm crafting, leave me alone, right? So just starting, and like I said, you set a timer for 10, 15 minutes. And if that timer goes off and you still don't feel like crafting, then you tried, right? And you can pick up at another time. My friend Jama has a series of very helpful videos. I know some of us, maybe it's not that you're in a creative rut, but maybe you just don't have time. You're in a busy season of life. Maybe you're caretaking of children, working full time, taking care of parents. I mean, there can be so many things standing in the way of making time in your craft room. And Jama has done a series on how to break that down. I'll try to find her videos and link them in the description box below, because she shows how you can get a lot done with, a low time commitment. I just want to line these up because I don't want to ink up the inside of I think I just did. I messed it up. That's okay. Is this that? I'm trying to line up my pattern and see how that went across. What? Where is it? There it is. There it is. Okay, good. I did not ink up the inside. I want to just ink up the outside so it looks like a continuous 12 by 24 canvas. And it's nice when your pattern connects across the center there. So I'll just do a little bit of this here on camera. And I chose Secret Sea because that is a coordinating color in this collection. And it goes beautifully and gives us that nice shadowing. Another thing I like to do is browse Pinterest for inspiration. You can look at Facebook or Instagram too, but Pinterest is my preferred method to look for inspiring ideas for crafting. And sometimes you don't even have to be looking at someone using the same collection. It's just a layout that inspires you. And maybe you take the photo placement from that design, or maybe just a little embellishment cluster or a title. It just can be something that gets you in the mood for crafting. Another place I like to turn is YouTube and tune into a video from my favorite creators. And it's fun where'd my pictures go? Here they are. So what I was saying is it can be fun to not craft along, but just have a video on while you're in your craft room. And it can feel like you are crafting with a friend, or craft along with what they're doing. And maybe you have our Volume 5 sketchbook, so you might be working on a layout, crafting along while I'm working on this one. And like I said, it's kind of like hanging out with a friend. Okay, so this is coming together quite nicely. Before I glue my paper layers down, want to make triple sure that I am super happy with the direction of this. And yes, I think it is just looking so pretty. Again, love the gold and how it accents the pictures, the flowers in the pictures, and the mushroom too. Looking at the sketch, they have two tags, one for journaling and one that is decorative that matches the paper. You can see they're the same color. So I'm going to bring this paper over and just use a basic tag shape from my stash. You can cut a tag by hand, but I like that we can move this around and pick the paper section of the paper. And I think that looks good. I like the black background. So we'll just slide that right in there. That pattern paper does a lot of the work for you. And then for my title, I am bringing in a brand new stamp. It's called Life in Bloom, Enjoying the Simple Things in Life. I think this is a really great title that you could use for so many different occasions. And I'm thinking about over here, I obviously cannot stamp it right on the background. We've got too many transitions and pattern paper. But what we can do is fussy cut this out. These title stamps do not have dies, but I'm just going to go around this, moving the paper, letting the scissors stay stationary and moving the paper as I go around to kind of round the edges here. And while I cut this out, I want to let you know that the creative design team is open. We are accepting new members into our crafty community, and it is awesome. Every single month, we have a new challenge to get you crafting. We have an unlimited access to an ever growing library of video tutorials. But along with the monthly creative challenge, we have behind the scenes content you won't see anywhere else. We do a deep dive into a different technique focus. There is a weekly class. Each class has a printable guide to go along with it. Many of those guides include sketches and measurements. And then, along with scrapbook layouts, we also feature cards for our classes. So, along with those weekly classes, we have tip videos as well. So, no shortage of creativity there and ideas being shared to help you get out of your creative rut. So we've got this fussy cut out, and let me just kind of round this up a little bit. I just basically followed the design of the different fonts here. And I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling about this, but yeah, we're gonna let that develop and work through it for a bit. Sometimes it just needs to live there, but I can already tell you I don't like it. So it's gonna need help. We'll come back to that. This is going to be where I house my journaling. And then, of course, we want to bring in some of the pretties, which might be what we need to fix up that sad little title over there. So for now, I'm just going to develop an embellishment cluster in this corner. And what I'm going to do is actually print my journaling on that tag. Well, not on the tag. The tag is just a space holder. I'll print it out and die cut a new tag. Or if you just wanted to put it right on the tag, you could handwrite it or use like Avery Clear sticker paper. So let's go ahead and add some of these pieces to the open corner little area here. We have so many different ferns kind of just wrapping around, and I'm mixing die cuts with the stamped images. And then we've got this little gap here. And I could just drop that tag down, but I want it poking up farther. So we're just going to hide this little area with embellishments. Now, these butterflies, I'm having trouble picking them up, so I'm going to grab my pickup tool and just use the wax tip here, or the putty tip. But these were colored, the pinkish ones are colored with Berry Burst, and the golden colored ones are colored with the new in color Golden Glow. And I use the Stampin' Blend markers. Same for these leaves, they are in both, I have colors Peaceful Pine, Mossy Meadow, and Old Olive. When you are hiking through the forest, there are so many different shades of green. So I wanted to bring that in with my embellishments. And I'm trying to use the title as an anchoring point, and I just don't think it has enough oomph to do the job. So I am going to rethink that and bring in a bigger base to help it stand out from the background here. So take a look at what that looks like there, and then we can try something else. Before we do that, let's try to cut these in half and see if we can stack it. So I'm separating the enjoying the simple from things in life. And sometimes I end up spending all this time fussy cutting these out and only to throw it away. But I'm going to keep working with this to see if we can make use of it, since I did take that time to fussy cut it. But now we have two different little pieces here, so we can stack it, and that's starting to look better. But let's bring in these new sweet words and label dies. You can see these are a set of intricate dies that have these decorative edges. They go along with the new collection coming out called Silly Old Bear. But I'm just trying to find one that will fit my title there. So I think, let's try this one. That one wasn't quite big enough. And you know what? This one has a little like dotting around the edge. So I think we'll use that one. I cut it out from white, And we're just placing these on here to see how it looks. I could stamp it right on this shape. And so if you hate fussy cutting, skip that part and just you can do masking or even stamp surgery to be able to stack it like this. And you see what a big impact that has? That looks much better. Now up here on the sketch, we have another little small embellishment cluster. So I'm going to sneak just a few sprigs and bits and pieces under there to create that third point of interest. Now, I did happen to use my notes app to kind of brain dump the details for each day of our hike because I knew I wouldn't remember all of the important information. So I went back to that and then typed up my journaling. I'll run this through my die cutting machine and then swap it out for the tag that's there. Now, this is a Secret Sea sheer ribbon. It is still available as of the time of filming this video. And then I'm going to secure them with some gold twine. I think gold looks very nice with this collection. So you could even do like on that card that I shared earlier, I had gold foil die cuts, and those were very pretty with the colors in this collection. Earlier, I mentioned scrapbooking photos that you are very excited about to potentially help you get out of a creative rut. I don't know if you have ever done this, but sometimes we put rules on ourselves where we have to work in chronological order or we have to finish a certain album before we allow ourselves to move on. And you might find you're just not inspired to work on that particular set of photos that came up next in chronological order. So I used to be that way, and I've given myself permission to jump around and just create what I'm excited to create. And it has made a very positive impact on my scrapbooking. And I feel like I get a lot more done and I'm much more excited to get into my craft room and work on these projects. There's no right or wrong way. So if you do work in chronological order, that is absolutely okay. Makes it easier to put them in your albums. So that's a positive, but just something to consider. And then last but not least, I am thinking about bringing in, now this pattern is small enough. I think we could get away with just a little strip. This is 1 centimeter tall by 12 inches wide. And I just wanted to bring in a little bit more detail and really capture the feeling of wildflowers all around. So I think I like it. I'm going to commit to that and glue it down. I did add some pink sequins that were just on my desk and happened to match. So I tucked in a few of those and I love it. This is one of my favorite sketches in volume 5. I've already created it a couple times, but it just turns out so beautiful and that pattern paper really shines. If you are thinking about joining us over in the Creative Design Team membership, the registration is in the description box below, along with all of the supplies I've used. Don't forget to tune back in each day to hear from the other Creative Design Team members for more tips on getting out of a creative rut.